feel it would be sacrilege not to let that track play out. It's so nice. It's anthemic, as I often say. Anyway, it's 6:06. You're listening to Vibe Drive, and it is, of course, time for Ask the Mayor Mondays. And joining me on the line is the Mayor of Watford, Peter Taylor. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, Benji.
Lovely to have you with us on this award-nominated show.
I'm delighted to hear it. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. The listeners won't hear the end of that, I'm sure you can imagine. Right, straight to it. Matt Hancock just coming out of the briefing today telling us that it is likely Britain will go back into the tier system on the 3rd of December. In light of that, where do we think Watford will feature on those tiers?
Yeah, it's a really important announcement. I know we've talked about it many times. There's a time delay on how people act and when we see that impacted on the figures. And actually, in just over 2 weeks, we'll be coming out of this lockdown, and the government will be looking at the figures and deciding what tier Watford is placed in. Before lockdown, we're in tier 1. We've seen the figures in the last week kind of level off. So they had been rising. They've now flattened, perhaps going down a little bit. I'm really encouraging everyone to follow the rules this week especially, because if we bring the numbers down, then that'll have a big bearing on whether or not we're in tier 1 or a higher tier. And of course, the higher the tier, the more restrictions we have on who we can visit, going to pubs and restaurants. So this week's going to be really critical. And
when do you anticipate to make that decision? I mean, will it be something that the government kind of thrust on us on December the 2nd or the 1st, or will we know kind of how our exit out of lockdown will look?
Yeah, I'm sure they'll give us a few days' notice. It won't be, we'll be having discussions with the government. Hertfordshire County Council at that level will be talking to ministers and officials about it over the next 2 weeks. They'll be keeping a really close eye on the figures as they come through. I suspect it won't be as much notice as some of us would like, but of course the figures are changing every single day, so they've got to adapt to that. But I expect that in the next sort of 10 days, week and a half, we'll start to be told which tier we're in. There will be a bit of a discussion about that, but ultimately they'll be driven a lot by the figures. And if Watford's figures are too high from their perspective, then we'll be in a higher tier. So it's, as I say, we're really, last time, just before lockdown, we were really on the margins about whether or not we would go up a tier. This time, we need to all work really hard to make sure we stay in tier 1. That means, we can visit our friends and family, we can meet them at, in pubs and restaurants. I think in the run-up to Christmas, it's really important that we try as much as we can to bring the figures down so that we can continue to live a bit of a normal life.
Well, that's it. And if we respect the rules and behave, it's possible that for Christmas we might have something which might look a little bit more normal than having to stay inside and not be allowed out to see the ones we love.
Exactly. I know that you'll be eager in December to go to the florist with friends to celebrate your victory in this award ceremony. But that's only going to be possible if we're in tier 1, so it's really important that all your listeners follow the rules for that reason alone.
Well, that's quite right. Yes, yeah. How will they be able to celebrate my victory in their small bubbles if we don't respect the rules? Hertfordshire selected to receive rapid coronavirus tests. Harks the Watford Observer this evening. What does that mean? Everyone can get them? Will they be as quick as sort of HIV pinprick tests, or yeah?
We need to get more of the detail about that. From Watford Borough Council's perspective, all I know is that we've been saying we'll provide, as many sites and locations as possible to help that to work. So, for months now, we've had tests happening in the car park next to Watford Council on Mondays and Thursdays. We're going to make that available right across the week. We all know that testing's a critical part of this, and one thing that is really important is that if you think you've got some of the symptoms, you lose your sense of taste or smell, you've got a new dry continuous cough, you get it checked out, because if you don't and you're carrying on acting like you normally do, then you could be spreading the virus right across the town. So we'll be doing everything we can to make sure that people can get tested if they've got some of the symptoms.
Now, before I let you go, and I haven't briefed you on this, but we are talking about this show. I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Don't worry, I won't ask you what happened in last night's show. We're talking about what luxury item you would bring in. So contestants are allowed to have one luxury item which they get during the show. So, I mean, in the past, we've had custard creams. Producer Grace here says a Cadbury share bag. Presenter Benji says prawn cocktail crisps. We've had a very vain TV reporter on the line who said moisturiser, but I suppose in the Welsh climate fluctuating, you probably would. Now, Mr. Mayor, give us something insightful and intelligent that you would have as your luxury item, or just go for the crunchy creams that you caused such a stir about 6 months ago.
I do love the crunchy cream, you're right. Any biscuit or chocolate would be very much welcome. But of course what I'd want is I'm allowed to take in a radio? Would that be allowed?
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to put it to the ITV bosses, and we'll get you signed up first for next year. Oh, that'd be brilliant. Thank you very much. That's Peter Taylor there, our Watford Mayor. Yes, a radio. Good idea.